Aaron Rodgers. That's
Aaron
what we're
Rodgers.
going. Aaron Rodgers was back on the field on Monday night before the Jets-Chargers game. Not a very fun game, especially if you're a Jets guy, boy. And the Jets, he was seen throwing like a 58-yard pass, kind of moving around decently, and he was doing some chatting. I think we got some video of Aaron Rodgers discussing how quickly he might be back. When are you coming back, man? So he said a couple of weeks when he was talking to Derwin James there, and Rodgers later clarified this remark on the Pat McAfee show and said he was really kidding. And I think what he means, dudes, is that I didn't realize people were listening, so I was joking.
And that's a rookie move by Aaron Rodgers, right? B-Mac, he knows the cameras are always rolling, especially after a game. Literally, if you've been to a game, you'll see it once the clock hits 0-0, and even before that, right, depending on if a team takes a knee and the clock is going to run out, you'll see an abundance of reporters running on the field to try to do interviews. So there's microphones and cameras everywhere. So I just think Aaron Rodgers didn't realize there was a reporter that close to him when he said that. But he has to know he's Aaron Rodgers. They're going to follow him around. They want to see how he's walking. Brinson, you talked about it pregame. Out there throwing 50, 55-yard passes, even taking some drop steps, which, again, is astronomical 2 months after an Achilles tear when you're 40 years old. Like, it's ridiculous. Now, the question is, will Aaron Rodgers be back? I mean, there's so much that goes into this, right? Because, for him to come back, the Jets need to be in contention, which they are right now. They're still in the playoff hunt. Crushing loss to the Chargers at home on Monday Night Football, but they're still in the thick of things, right? And if you look at this, right, let's go back to when Cam Akers did this before the Rams won the Super Bowl. He did it in July in the offseason, B-Mac, right? Younger guy, physically probably a little bit more gifted at this time in his career than Aaron Rodgers was. You would assume he can heal a lot faster. He came back the last week of the season. I believe it was week 18, right? And then helped them throughout the playoffs. Well, you look at Aaron Rodgers, it was mid-September when this happened. I believe he got his surgery, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the first week of October. So even if we're putting it on that same timeline, that would mean Aaron Rodgers wouldn't come back till probably the second week of the playoffs, right? So what he's done in 2 months is ridiculous, right? And he's not Cam Akers, right? He doesn't have to jump cut, right? He doesn't have to get in and out of, cuts like Cam Akers would have to do, or he doesn't have to be able to block somebody and pass pro like Cam Akers has to do. But he talked about it, like you said, Will, on the Pat McAfee show. Like he was kidding about the few weeks. He's got to be able to protect himself. That was his main thing when he said it on the Pat McAfee show. I got to be able to protect myself, right? There's some milestones that he still has to pass. And the biggest question, B-Mac and Will Brinson, is the O-line protection. Remember, that was an issue during training camp. Aaron Rodgers said, I'm going to have patience for as long as I can have patience. But at the end of the day, I need to know the starting five that's going to be up there with me, because everybody needs to be on one string together. They need to know the calls, because Aaron Rodgers has so much freedom at the line of scrimmage to check plays. So everybody has to be on one accord. Well, the offensive line has been in flux, guys. We saw Billy Turner,
that's a nice way of saying it,
woodshed on Monday night. So Zach Wilson is very mobile, and if he couldn't get out of that, Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles won't be able to get off of that. So there's so much to dive into when it comes to this. I think first and foremost, right, the Jets have to be in contention, right? And then also, we see that Billy Turner has a broken hand. Also, there's milestones that Aaron Rodgers has to pass, and then he has to be comfortable behind that offensive line.
I think with Aaron Rodgers, he's loving this. In regards to what he said to Derwin James, Leger, I think he knew the camera was there.
Ooh.
Because my thing is this: if you're Aaron Rodgers, you got to know you've been on the sideline for a few Jets home games, so you know the camera is always following you. They're treating Aaron Rodgers like the NFL is treating Taylor Swift, but he's on the field. He's not up top. He's on the field. He was up top the first game he attended. Now he's been on the field. So every time there's an opportunity to put the camera or the microphone around Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be there. So at the end of the game, the cameraman was literally within 5 yards of Aaron Rodgers. So I highly doubt Aaron Rodgers didn't see the cameraman to his left. That's the first thing. I do believe he was joking when he said a few weeks, but that was a joke to kind of spark some type of headlines, because clearly he knew that was going to get out to some degree, right? Of course, he clarified what he meant on the Pat McAfee show, but I think he knew what he was doing. And then also, too, when you factor in every time we see him, he's throwing the football. He's trying to show us, you know what? Oh, boy. He's giving us something to talk about. Man, Aaron Rodgers is getting closer. Is he going to return? Headlines. So for Aaron Rodgers, I'm not saying that he's seeking attention, but I think he kind of likes it because he likes it because if you didn't really want to be a headline, why are you throwing the ball 50 yards during pregame? You're not playing. You're not playing at all. There's nothing for you to get ready for. That play 60 arm does not need to be warmed up right now because you're not going to be activated no time soon. So you're only doing that to do what? Give us something to talk about and to applaud the how fast you've been healing and to talk about it. And then also to talk about, will he come back? And then lastly, if he's able to come back, I wouldn't put him in that fire. No, I wouldn't put Rodgers out there. Because my thing, Leger.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Leger talked about how bad the offensive line. It's not going to get better. You can't change the offensive line. The personnel is the personnel. You're dealing with injuries. Heck, Billy just did what? He broke his hand?
He broke his hand, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. They just put him in the lineup. Now he's hurt. So even if you're mathematically speaking still in the playoff hunt mid to late December, do you want to salvage 2024 potentially? Because if you put Aaron Rodgers behind that line, he's going to have to move. He's going to have to run to avoid pressure. And I don't know if that would be the smartest thing.
Well, this is the one thing.
By the way, I was just going to say, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to best explain this because I was on the Darren Smith show with my buddy Darren Smith out in San Diego doing San Diego radio, and he said he's like sources close to the show have told us that Rodgers wants to come back in a couple of weeks, and I can't. But I've texted with Darren about it. He told me how he found out. And I can't really get into the weeds on the specific. I don't want to blow up Darren's spot by pointing it out. But
yeah, we got you.
But it's legit. It's a legit sort of surprising way to figure it out. And I think it's interesting to note that Rodgers that the Jets are playing on December 3rd against the Falcons at home. It's after they get they have the Raiders, the Bills, and the Dolphins, and then they have the Falcons at home. His birthday is December 2nd. And
birthday gift.
I just sort of want. Couldn't you see Rodgers being he'll turn 40 on December 2nd?
Yeah.
And he's doing all of the. So I think you could make the case that maybe he's doing this to try and motivate the team. All right, keep going out there and fighting. Stay checked in. I'm going to try to get back if I can. I think he likes the attention. He loves it. Dude, he doesn't have to do. He gets paid handsomely apparently to do the McAfee show. But he hasn't. Aaron Rodgers hasn't done anything to go out of his way to avoid attention in the last 5 years, at all. Right, the darkness retreat, all this stuff. He likes the attention, and that's fine. He's a famous quarterback, one of the most famous football players in the league. But I think that I just sort of wonder. To me, I'm with you, B-Mac, and I'm curious what you think. Do you want to bring him back? What does the Jets' record need to be for him to viably come back in December? So again, you're 4-4. You're at the Raiders, and not a great time to get the Raiders. You wish you got them 2 weeks ago. At the Bills, the Dolphins at home, Falcons and Texans at home, and then you close with at Dolphins, Commanders at home, at Browns, at Patriots. You could win. Aaron Rodgers could win all 4 of those final games if you got to that spot.
And that was the biggest thing, even in the beginning of the season when they had that 6 game gauntlet. People were saying, Jet fans would have taken 3-3 with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, right? Because who did they have? They had Jalen Hurts, they had Josh Allen, they had Patrick Mahomes, and they had Dak Prescott in the first 6 weeks. So them going 3-3 without Rodgers, that was icing on the cake. So, to your point, Will, Aaron Rodgers being so viably ready for the media and speaking on the Pat McAfee show, I think there is a little bit of gamesmanship there, letting the team know, continue to fight, guys. I'm going to do my best to come back, especially if we're in the hunt right now. Before that Chargers game, a lot of people were saying, shoot, the Jets might compete for the AFC East, right? Because if you think about it, if they won that game, everybody else in the AFC East had lost on that previous Sunday. So they would have gained a game on everybody else, right? They would have gained a game on the Bills. They would have been a half game out of first place behind the Miami Dolphins. So everything they needed to happen happened, and they just did not show up on Monday night.
And they could have won that game too.
Oh my God. The defense gave up, I believe, less than 200 yards.
191 yards.
Justin Herbert, he was 16-30 for 136. If you told me before this game that Justin Herbert was going to go 16 for 30 for 136, I would have told you it was a blowout. The Jets probably won by at least 10, if that's the case.
Also, too, what the Charger game showed all of us just how bad the Jets offense can be.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion.
Because it wasn't like the Jets defensively was a dominant unit. They had that one game against the Raiders where they had Khalil Mack had 6 sacks. But since then, other than that, it wasn't like it was a dominant unit. So I was overly surprised to see how well the Chargers played against the Jets and the pressure they put on Zach Wilson. So we know what we're going to get from the Jets defense. The issue offensively is that you don't know what you're going to get. You just hope that you can get something that's serviceable. That's where they are right now. They're hoping.
To your point, Mac, that was the question, right? Going into the game, it wasn't that the Chargers defense, were stalwarts, right? They were the worst pass defense in football. They gave up nearly 300 pass yards.
297 to be exact.
Exactly.
So
and the next closest team, I believe, was like 263. So that's how bad they've been against the pass. So that's why a lot of people, I think, pick the Jets because they're like, this is a bad pass defense. If there's a game for Zach Wilson to get right, this is the game. But of course, if you can't protect and your quarterback's missing easy throws, it doesn't matter. This is the NFL. You get beat by anybody.
Well, and I think that's sort of like the Rodgers thing too plays into it. Like, remember last year, the defense kind of checked out after it was like, holy crap. Like, I mean, they were fighting, but it was like, they didn't check out. They started to throw barbs at Zach Wilson, like publicly. I mean, like Sauce Gardner, like, he's a rookie and he's like, I mean, this clown. and so I was sort of wondering if that Rodgers, so part of the Rodgers sort of public putting it out there and letting it leaking it out there is like in a way to make sure that there's no infighting with the defense and like that the defense knows they're stuck with Zach Wilson for better or for worse. They didn't make any changes like they had the opportunities to.